They were really trying to flex on our asses so hard with this animation, huh? What were they flexing? Flexing the ability to make people motion sick without having to leave the comfort of their beds? If so, well, that's kind of impressive, but I still hate it. I could see that the creators were very ambitious when it came to handshakers, which was totally not sponsored by the card game Precious Memories. What was the result of all of this? Well, the show being thrown dung out by the entire internet, and a 5.25 rating on MyAnimeList. God, you know, wow. I've observed that an anime has to be considered really shit by the majority for it to score under a 7 on Mal. And I mean really shit. But for it to score under 6, well, that has to be explosively shit. My goodness, 5.25. Oh. Hey, my name is Astronauty, and I recently watched a fucking anime called Handshakers, but it should have been renamed to Teacup Ride Simulation because of how the feeling of being exposed to both parallels each other. You know, nausea, dizziness, motion sickness. I've been curious about the show for a while now, ever since it premiered in 2017 to a scathing audience and caused an uproar on the internet. At the time, I saw a couple of clips of it online, and I also knew about its, well, how should I put this? Retarded premise. And, you know, I could not but laugh too. And I wondered why the studio even bothered with the inevitable humiliation ritual by putting it out there. So when I thought about watching it 7 years later, the bar was set super low, like to the inner core. But, oh my god, okay, can I be honest here? Was it bad? Yes. Okay, with a premise like this, it would actually be tough for it to not be bad, okay? Was it insufferable at times? Yes. Yes, it fucking was. But it wasn't really that terrible. Like, it wasn't as terrible as I thought it would be. Okay, I've definitely seen a lot worse. I don't know, the bar for the show was set so low that it ended up exceeding my expectations, even though it was still shit. However, the first episode, it was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. I was truly expecting the rest of the anime to be a fucking roller coaster ride like that first episode was, but nah. So animation studios, and this includes anime studios, they tend to bank the most money and effort on their first episodes because they want to reel the audience in through fluid and flashy animation, you know, making them want more and shit. But here, what the fuck is this shit? Look at this shit! I didn't even have the strength to care about what the fuck was going on or what the fuck they were saying, because looking at this shit was just making me nauseous. Don't get me wrong, they do this technique throughout the entire anime, but they constantly did this throughout the first fucking episode like this shit was cool or some shit. Most of the clips I'm gathering of them doing this are from said first episode. They tried to hook us in by using this strategy. No, okay? They just made fools out of themselves. I guess that they tried and attempted to do the multi-plane camera technique akin to the Beauty and the Beast ballroom scene. But this was so obviously, clearly, well above the studio's capabilities. The animation itself is so stilted and janky, so it could never work. When they do this, they animate shit way too slow, so it just looks like the world is going in slow motion for no fucking reason at all of a sudden. But they also do this during fight scenes, and it's way too fucking fast, so as well as feeling sick, I also don't know what the fuck is going on. Sometimes it's okay not to be unique. At the same time though, the first episode had me fucking rolling. I mean, I thought that this shit was hilarious. At least my eyes weren't getting pried open, so whenever I felt sick, I could just look away. I was chuckling when the student council president girl walked in. She has the most absurd waist-to-tit ratio that I have seen in a very long time, and those things would just wobble all the time for no fucking reason. And I was punching the ground with tears in my eyes when she was listening to music and she was bobbing her head up and down and her tits were just... Yeah, they definitely overdid it with the fan service in the first episode. Most of the fan service in the entire show is in the first episode, trying to reel us in again, you know? Look, get your fucking heads out of your asses, okay? You are not reeling anyone in. Stop trying so hard. This is actually a stark contrast to the rest of the anime. You know, I thought that this show was gonna be flooded with it, especially because of its premise, which was beckoning the showrunners to bombard us with it. I was fucking bracing myself for it, like how I would brace myself before getting shot. But if you have big tits in this anime, beware. You are not safe, because they'll form a mind of their own. I was fully expecting the tits to form their own conscious and end up rebelling by detaching themselves from the hosts and living out their own lives. You'll also get sexualized to no end, like how in the first episode, the big tits sub-goth girl kept on being really fucking annoying because she kept orgasming all the time. In fact, it was pretty much her whole dialogue, while her tits kept on smacking her in the fucking face, all while her chains, which she apparently controlled, were going all tentacle porn on her. However, if you are skinny and have no tits, but suddenly show a bit of cleavage, your boobs will grow 2 cup sizes, which is honestly one of the most anime things in the world. What I at first thought was cool and something that they kept on showing off in the first episode were these scenery shots where people were moving and talking and it felt alive and dynamic. At first I was like, wow, you know, you don't see that a lot. That's very detailed and impressive. But they kept on repeating and reusing these same shots throughout the entire fucking anime, so yeah, it turned really lame. Well, so much for that. I guess what we got was all they could give us in time, or all they could be bothered to give us. Speaking of reused animation, they didn't even make new animation for the opening. They just reused clips from the show. Okay, look, clearly things were sacrificed for the multi-plane camera technique. Well, what was the result of that? Utter wank, obviously. Speaking of wank, the CGI. But unfortunately, that's a given when it comes to anime. I don't know why. Anime just doesn't know what the hell they're doing in that department. What isn't a given though is this permanent fucking Instagram filter that they put on top of the show. Why? Another way to be unique and stand out, Handshakers, is that it? So the preposterous plot that I have been harping on about, the fucking mind-blowing plot, the mind-boggling plot of Handshitters is that the 2 main characters have to hold hands at all times. They had the audacity to make this premise all cutesy-bootsy because the main character, Tazuna, wants to hold the main girl character, Koyote's, hand because she reminds him of his dead sister when she was in hospital. But because of Koyote's supernatural condition, if he ever lets go of her hand, she will die. So they will have to be forced to bond. That's outrageous. Of course, everyone was gonna go into this anime already making fun of it. Could you imagine the stink and sweat that would build up? The sweat would be so much, it would be dripping on the floor and shit. They would have to watch their steps in order to not slip and fall. There would be flies surrounding their hands as well. Dogs would want to nibble on them because the smell would resemble feces. A new strain of the fucking Black Death would probably be brewing from the germs that are festering inside those hands. Don't forget about how numb those things would be. Mold and fungus would probably grow and their hands would fucking rot off. But that's not before the fucking maggots that the flies left behind didn't eat their flesh first. And also, how about the humiliation that they would face on the outside? They actually addressed this in the show, albeit briefly. They had to bathe together, and of course, we get a whole ass embarrassing scene all about this because this is an anime and it has a fucking girl character in it who looks like she's fucking 7. Jesus Christ. They also address the fact that they have to go to the bathroom together. Yeah, it's really funny that they addressed this and still wanted us to take this premise seriously. They basically confirm that in universe, if you have to diarrhea squirt, the other person has to experience that shit with you. Yeah, there's nothing that can strengthen a bond more than knowing what toilet water sounds like when it hits your partner's ass when they're taking a shit. Wait a second. Look at the way they sleep! Oh, you have to be joking. Oh well, at least that answers that question, right? Come on, how did they even fall asleep like that? That would have been so uncomfortable. They'd have to be taking sleeping pills. Could you imagine how sore their arms would be when they wake up? Where's that scene? I would have loved to have seen it, as well as their reaction to the absolute rank stench and sweat. And what about other people's reactions to seeing two people who refuse to let go of each other's hands at all times, even when they're cooking and repairing shit? Oh wait, no one actually gives a shit.
They might wonder why you're always holding hands, but they won't care as long as you get the job done.
What? No, it's weird. And your employer is a fucking Nimrod because it's unsanitary and unsafe because you're all working in a fucking kitchen. They don't actually show this, but when they're in class, they would have to be holding hands as well, even though their desks are separated. Of course they didn't show that because that is so unbelievably stupid. This entire premise is horse shit. However, it doesn't take very long for them to not have to hold each other's hands all the time, only momentarily. I guess they weren't gonna roll with this retardation for very long. But they may say how long Coyote can go without needing her hand to be held, but they never say how long the main character can hold her hand for before he's eligible to let go of her hand in order for her to not die. So can he just touch her hand quickly and then not touch her for a couple of minutes? Horseshit. Anyway, because the main character held Coyote's hand, he gets roped into the supernatural game where he gets transported into another dimension whenever another pair that is also playing this game are close to them and are also holding hands. They are competing for the wish to get granted if they defeat enough teams and God or whatever. This ultimate dimension is extremely lame, by the way, because all that changes is that the background characters fuck off. Everything else is the same. That's really creative. At least the transition from the real world to the alternate dimension is pretty cool. You know what's just as bad as the premise? The characters. I will say that the two main leads were likable. Yes, the main character is your generic nice guy anime lead character, but you know, that is fucking obvious just by looking at him. He looks the exact same as hundreds, perhaps thousands of fucking anime leads out there. So yeah, they pretty much just copied and pasted his design. But he isn't completely bland, spineless, and annoying like some of the others like him. You can't say that he's a pussy at all. He is courageous, I'll have to give him that. And I found it nice that he cared about Coyote even when she was a total stranger to him. I couldn't help but like him, okay? I especially liked Coyote though. Even though she didn't speak or show any emotion for the majority of the anime, you could tell what she was feeling and that she had a soft spot for her friends. Even though throughout the majority of the anime, she was just as helpless as Princess Peach, I never found her to be annoying or overbearing with it. It's more like her and Tazuna were just put in this unfortunate situation that she had no control over, and she did feel guilty. I feel like she's an otaku's wet dream though. She's mute, she plays card games.
It's precious memories to boot. Please buy that card game, it's so good, we swear.
She can cook. You have to be with her and take care of her at all times. She can't even bathe or dress herself, so you have to do that shit for her. And she looks like she's 7. Okay, seriously though, are we really meant to believe that these two pygmies are in fucking high school?
This thing's older than I am.
So it's like 9 years old? Seriously, why did he say that like he was old as shit? He looks like he's 8 for Christ's sake. Anyway, the two of them end up forming a surprisingly believable and cute bond. Okay, let's talk about the rest of the cast now. Fuck. The rest of the cast are unbelievably annoying. In fact, they are some of the worst cast of characters I have ever seen. They do not act like people. They are gimmick characters through and through, but hyperbolized to the worst extremes possible. It's like the writers were given a character trait for someone and they just scaled that shit to 100% instead of that character trait just being a part of their overall character. The tsundere character always has to be mad at her partner for no fucking reason at all and has to say jeez all the time because that's what tsunderes do, right? I actually found her to be very likable when she was deciding to act like a believable human being. The constant sudden shifts from that to her being a fucking caricature were very, very jarring. The guy with no dick and balls was apologizing constantly because that's all they wrote down for him as a character trait and they couldn't be bothered to add more. So that's all they had to go off of. Seriously, he apologizes in almost every single fucking sentence he says. The student council president chick has to whine and self-deprecate herself all the time. That's pretty much her entire character. Because isn't this the most pleasant sound you've ever heard? The doctor is eccentric? Alright then. Let's just make him the worst, most unfunny, loud equals funny-esque character ever. They really thought they were doing something interesting with him, weren't they? I could feel it. But I thought that he was the worst fucking character in the show. Thought. Past tense. It wasn't until I met the actual worst characters in this anime, then I knew who the worst were. This idol chick and this incel manager. And I thought that the doctor was bad. And he is still really bad. Like, oh my god, is he bad? But these two? I almost fainted with how annoying these two are. And I know that that sounds dramatic, but you would understand if you've seen the show. The manager is the cringiest character that I have seen in a long time. They would try and make him funny through his voice acting and delivery. It would make me grit my teeth so fucking hard, sanding them down into little particles that would get blown away in the breeze as I sat on my bed in secondhand embarrassment watching this shit. This isn't the voice actor's fault though, at least in the English dub. I only watched the English dub. He's a good voice actor. I could tell that he tried his best with what he was given. I blame the direction. Was he cringing hard behind the mic? We'll probably never know, but I would have been. But the worst was the fucking idol chick who can't sing and sing shit songs. What's worse, a character that tries too hard to be funny or a character that tries too hard to be smart? To be honest, I don't even fucking know anymore because I thought that unfunny characters were the worst until I watched this anime. In almost every single sentence, she tells out it's a fucking quote by some poet, followed up by the favorite sentence that anime loves. In other words, I know that that sounds strange, but it's not my fault. It's the show's fault. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about.
In the words of a brilliant American theologist who was named Edward Young, we waste, not use our time, therefore we breathe, not live. In other words, an idol who's as busy as I am must always use her time to its fullest. Appius Claudius Caecus once said, "Every man is the maker of his own destiny." Napoleon Bonaparte, talk about a fitting quote for this. I don't suppose you're familiar with the English. I believe it was the English. In other words,
yep. Almost every single time she opens her shit-stained mouth, that's what comes out. That's not a fucking character. That's freaking redonkulous. They thought that they were being really smart with this shit, huh? You know what? They should just stop thinking. It doesn't typically go well for them. They should at least get their heads out of their asses before they do so again. They give all these characters emotional moments, but they just prove null and void because I didn't have a reason to give a shit beforehand because they weren't characters beforehand. In fact, the only time we get to see the human side of some of these characters is with these emotional moments, and I'm like, where was this before? What else?
Do you think that it's weird for a girl to fall in love with her little brother?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, there's also some weird incest shit going on in this anime too. Of course. You know what? Why the fuck not? Let's just throw that shit in the pile as well. Even with the two main characters, it feels weird because Coyote, who is the main character's love interest, initially reminded him of his sister.
Please, buy the Precious Memories card game. We collab with handshakers. Please, we'll suck you off, we swear.
This anime also has one of the most blatant product placements I have ever seen. I was just waiting for the showrunners to interrupt the show and vow to lick our asses if it meant us buying the Precious Memories card game. At first, I thought that they made up this card game, but I became suspicious really fast. They would read out elaborate descriptions for the cards, not caring about how strange they were sounding. We also had a whole episode dedicated to this shit. In someone's whole fucking power was this game. So I looked it up and yeah, it's real. And oh, what is that? A handshakers collab? Don't get me wrong, I am fine with collabs and sponsorships. Money is important for survival. Because human beings are so fucking stupid that we are the only animals that need to give away numbers in order to survive. But was it really in the agreement to be as shameless about it as possible? What is this game even about anyway? This card game featuring beautiful girl characters is filled with the girls as precious memories. Okay. Well, thanks for convincing me to never ever touch this game. And I guess this anime convinced everyone to never watch any of it ever again. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm an anomaly in saying that I watched it twice. They tried to do a sequel bait at the end, but no one cared, so no sequel. Do you know what I've gathered? This anime is the complete antithesis of subtlety. Everything has to be over the top. Even the goddamn sponsorship had to be. It acts like it's allergic to subtlety. I'll give Handshakers a 3 out of 10. Anyway, that is all for this review. If you like this video, please let me know by giving it a like. That really helps me. Comment what you thought down below. And if you want to see me talk about more strange and funny shit, feel free to subscribe. Anyway, that is all from me. Goodbye!